What made you realize you're old? I saw a young adult YouTuber express genuine horror at the idea of an internet without algorithms, saying things like, how would you ever find anything? I'd only ever see the content I'm subscribed to, and the internet as we know it will be destroyed. We can't let this happen. I was floored. I hate modern-day internet algorithms. Can't wrap my head around why anyone would prefer them over early 2000s internet glory days. Back when search queries actually brought up the stuff you were looking for, b. you could go back to a page with old-school pagination instead of infinitely scrolling until you lose your place, c. websites didn't steal your personal information and use your data for advertising, d. algorithms didn't listen to you through your phone speakers, e. you actually saw the content you were subscribed to instead of whatever content creators played the best algorithm game, and f. the people you subscribed to actually showed up on your feed instead of being silenced into obscurity because they don't appeal to advertisers. Content was actually created to be good by its own merit and to appeal to viewers, instead just being created to sell advertising. Creators could appear out of thin air and make something inspired that actually got seen by real human beings, instead of creators having to devote their full-time schedule to forcefully pumping out daily content in hopes of the algorithm might eventually notice them. I don't know why anyone would be pro-algorithm. The internet has been a cesspool ever since they started taking over like a plague. One by one, websites converted. With it, content devolved, small creators were pushed out, political divides worsened, and I can't find any of the stuff I want to see despite knowing it's there. But it suddenly made sense to me that younger people weren't around back then, and have no idea how great it was to be able to control what you saw on the internet before views became a commodity. It was then that I realized the old must have hit me. Face with tears of joy. I recently saw a Reddit post about things that were popular 25 years ago, and I thought about the 80s until I saw a comment that pointed out that we are talking about 1998. I also then realized that I am older than 25. I also recently used the phrase 20 years ago when I was talking to a friend. That hit different. Born in 83. The 60s seems like a crazy long time before my time. But 1969 was 14 years before I was born. That's like 2009 till now. A bunch of things lol. Bent down to pick up my 20 pounds pup and threw my back out. Seeing athletes get drafted into the NFL that were born after 2000. Also watching guys I saw get drafted now retiring. Wanting peace and quiet instead of parties. Getting excited about grocery or furniture shopping. Seeing athletes get drafted into the NFL that were born after 2000. Also watching guys I saw get drafted now retiring. It's not the young people getting drafted that make me feel old. It's the references to the older athletes that do it. He's 34 now, so he doesn't have much left in the tank. Guys way younger than me being referred to as past their prime really gets to me. Being older than baseball players. I was taking to my team, early 20s, I'm basically their parents' age, about the actress Gillian Anderson, and when it didn't ring a bell, I said, you know, Agent Scully from X-Files. No one knew X-Files or who Agent Scully was, but one of the girls chipped in, oh, the mother from Sex Education, and they all clicked. My everyday routine: come home from work, watch Wheel of Fortune, look at the newspaper and sit outside, weather permitting, to watch the birds and squirrels. If that doesn't mean I am old, then nothing does. My boyfriend and I like to watch Jeopardy and Dateline, or if the weather is nice we sit outside, watch the squirrels and birds in the yard, and grill. The other day a crow and a squirrel almost got in a fight in our yard over some pumpkin seeds. We're 30 and 32 and we live a pretty relaxed homebody life compared to other people our age. I like it. I was reading Rolling Stone at the doctor's office and realized I hardly knew any of the bands on the Billboard #1 singles list. 90s music to my kids is like what 60s music was to me. It's easy to think that, but music, and culture in general, are very different now. The charts aren't the cultural staple they used to be, radio isn't the arbiter of taste anymore, people consume music very differently, and it's more about what's in Netflix series than it is what's happening in any real-world fashion scene. Album culture is more or less non-existent too. It's not like you generally get 2 or 3 hit singles from an LP, and then tour the world. Streaming has made music sales a matter of 1% ers who get the bulk of the pie, and the rest, and the successful touring bands are either behemoths or just into the lifestyle. You don't make money from music like you used to, and it's much more about a strong image and media profile than it is music or message. Culture has become much more disposable across the board. Personally, I've got to the stage where I feel like I'm hearing about a revolving door of recently deceased up-and-coming rappers with weird names, but I think it's less that I'm out of touch, and more that the media loves to hype a tragic story, and there's no common culture that everyone taps into anymore. 2 friends and I were backpacking in the high Sierras in California. Dan and I had been up this same trail twice before with no problems. It starts around 2,440 m, and goes up to a pass at 11,400, 3,480 m, in about 8 miles. This time however, by 9,000 we were all quite tired and took a long break. We moved on and up, and within another mile we were all ready to stop, but the canyon is very narrow with no camping spots. We had to continue, but we searched for campsites every step. By 10,000 we were all nearly exhausted, one of us in particular. He threw off his pack and was going to camp right in the trail, which is not allowed. I volunteered to scout ahead for a campsite. Maybe 1/3 of a mile on and about 10,300 I found a nice area next to a beautiful lake. I left my pack and went back to get my friends. We were moving on shaky legs. It took forever to set up camp, fix dinner, pump water, clean up the cooking stuff, and so on. We were in bed before dark and slept like logs. From then on, for the rest of the week, we were fine. But it surely highlighted aging. I was 70. I was explaining something to a young co-worker and went, "You know, the band The Presidents of the United States of America." Blank stare. The one with the song that goes "Move into the country, gonna eat a lot of peaches." She looked at me like I was insane. "You didn't realize you were old until you were 70? That's a pretty youthful life you're living. Congrats. That's a hike that not many 40-year-olds could do, let alone 70. Did you hear any Sierra sounds in the night? You pulling this shit off at 70 is inspirational." "Dude, I'm 40 and hiking at that elevation kicks my butt. My dad is coming up to 80 soon and regularly goes walking in the mountains. He lives in France. Recently he's had some heart trouble, so he sits down while the heart specialist fills in the paperwork." "So, do you do any exercise?" "Well, I go walking in the mountains at the weekend. I like a good walk." Good, good. "Roughly how much?" "Oh, on a good day, up to a 1,000 m. "Good, good. I'll write down that you walk about a kilometer once a week." Once my dad had stopped laughing, he clarified that he meant 1,000 m climb, not 1,000 m distance. I was browsing a thrift store a few years ago. An RCA wooden console TV caught my eye because we had an identical one growing up, so I checked it out for fun, read the back of it and everything. A while later, as I was standing in line beside the TVs, a kid behind me points to the wooden console one and goes, "Mom, look at that ancient TV. It was made the same year I was born." I'm sure you probably know this already, but technology works on its own timeline. 10 years isn't that long for us, whereas in the tech world we were watching on only 1080p TVs with our DVD players. Edit, I stand corrected, as DVDs displayed up to 720p LOL.